Look at me. The size of a kitten.
I know only the deepest and most meaningful friendship could get me to deviate from my appointed rounds with my ladies.
You're gorgeous. You're sweet. You're the best woman I've ever met. And I'm not marrying you for your cooking.
Wait, what? Wait.
Well, you got one thing, and that's love.
Right.
And I am a part of this family, so if you need our money for that house, you got it.
Great friends, but you gotta get another playmate.
Tonight, we go straight to the core. The contract fights on one-hit sitcom, the leg injury twist that changed a marriage storyline, the arrest that shut down a detective show, and the quiet exit that followed. This is about decisions, paperwork, and fallout, and every turn is documented. You'll hear how a locker room dream became a church step injury, how a co-star's criminal case slammed a studio door, and how a steady pro kept working while bigger egos burned the set. What does it mean when the fix is in at the writer's table? What happens when the lead goes to court overseas? And what does the path forward look like when you carry yourself like a pro and still pay for other people's choices? If you want Ben Power's latest news and a precise Ben Power scandal update that connects the feuds, legal facts, and direct fallout, stay here and tell me which turning point hits you the hardest and why. Alton Adelbert Powers began as a kid from Brooklyn with a plan, not a shortcut. He was born on July 5th, 1950, raised in a neighborhood that taught him rhythm, grit, and timing. He learned to read a room before he learned to face a camera. Stage doors opened first. Trinity Repertory Company in Providence gave him a base. Under director Adrian Hall, he built a Range the Slow Way, rehearsal, notes, and show nights that demanded the same energy no matter who sat in the seats. He didn't stop at drama. He worked stand-up, did impressions, and sang the standards he loved, plus songs he wrote. That mix sharpened his ear and his timing. A Hollywood agent saw the package on stage and signed him. Club dates followed, including the Playboy Club in Las Vegas. Every booking was a step, not a leap. Television noticed. Guest shots proved he could hit his mark and land a line with humor or heat. Then the right call came at the right time, and a long-running sitcom needed a stabilizer. Good Times had moved through big changes. A father figure was cut, a mother figure left, and returned with conditions. Producers needed a storyline that rebuilt a family center and cooled the noise. They cast him as a professional football player with a plan, a check, and a commitment. On paper, it fixed three problems at once: love, money, and direction. He was ready. The set was hot. The camera was rolling. And the next chapter started. Alton Adelbert Powers brought a calm edge to a room that needed both. Now let's break down the chain of feuds, the legal breakpoints, and the direct fallout that followed. A hit show is a factory. It makes jokes, emotions, and schedules. It also makes friction. On Good Times, the friction came from clashes over tone, character dignity, and the family center. Documented moves followed. A leading man was fired, a leading woman left over vision and came back with clear terms, and the writers were told to rebuild the home. Into that plan walked a new husband for Thelma, a character designed to carry stability on his shoulders while the series landed its plane. The wedding played big because it answered an old question: who will stand across from Thelma and promise a future? The church doors opened, and the answer walked out injured. The leg injury wasn't a stunt on the field. It was a fall on the steps. That one beat flipped the arc from happily ever after to work the rehab, face the bills, and change the plan. It turned a trophy narrative into a test of pressure. On set, he hit every note. On the page, the beats kept him limping. That wasn't an accident. It was a chosen arc that showed how a simple fall can shred a timeline. The feud under the surface was about control. Who defines the family, the work, and the wins? The writing room put the answer into the injury and the home scenes after. That's feud number one and fallout number one. The man at the center adapted, played the truth, and carried the weight of the change like a pro. With the sitcom chapter closed, the next big swing came in primetime drama. Mickey Spillane's Mike Hammer hired him to play a smooth connector to New York's underworld, a character built to glide through information and turn it into action. The show got traction on CBS. The rhythm clicked, the check cleared. Then the lead actor, Stacy Keach, was arrested in London in 1984 on a cocaine smuggling charge. That is a legal fact. Proceedings followed. Sentencing followed. Filming stopped. This is feud number two, only in the practical sense. Not a shouting match, but a direct clash between the law and a schedule. The fallout was instant. A production shuts down when its star is in custody. Writers can pivot, producers can stall, but a lead behind bars is a door locked from the outside. For the character actor who did the work, the fallout is simple and brutal. No show, no shoot, no paycheck. Alton Adelbert Powers did not stage a scene at the courthouse. He did not file a spectacle. He did what professionals do when the legal wall rises. He closed the script, met his obligations, and moved on. He left the Hollywood chase by the end of 1985. Before that title returned in a new cycle. That is a timeline set by facts on paper. The direct fallout turns into choices. A working actor in the 1980s who is black faces fewer leading offers and more slot roles. The reliable answer is to be the person who solves problems for the day, the week, or the arc. That's a craft choice, not a surrender. He kept taking parts that proved range. Comedy with sharp timing, drama with clean edges, and roles that live between both. The main story is not about rumors. It is about documented conflicts and legal events that move paychecks and pages. The sitcom set had a vision clash. The primetime drama had a criminal case connected to its star. Both moments generated clean fallout you can count. Episodes cut, weeks idle, and long plans changed. Inside that, Alton Adelbert Powers stayed exact. He showed up. He delivered. He left rooms with no complaints attached to his name. That reputation does not trend. It stacks. It brings the next script and the next door. But there is a cost. When one show ends and one show stops, you lose momentum you did not earn and you cannot fix alone. So he aimed for control where he could find it, steady guest roles, film cameos, and work that kept his name on call sheets and his family steady at home. That is the real engine of this story. The Feuds chapter also includes the design of a husband role that had to carry a message about responsibility. The writers set the bar high, then hit the knee. It made the marriage about endurance and budget instead of victory laps. That choice changed how the season closed. It turned the character from a trophy to a test case for commitment. The legal chapter is cleaner. Arrest, court, sentence, production paused. This is the exact track that shut a door he'd opened with skill. You can measure, line by line, how that case took weeks, then months, and turned a cast into a hiatus that never ended. The fallout chapter lands at the same place every time. A professional does everything right and still gets hit by impacts he didn't cause. That is the theme of Alton Adelbert Powers, at the center of moving parts he did not control and never used as an excuse. He kept his private life private. He married Julia Harper. They raised 4 children. Those are facts. He took feature work when it fit, including Cheech and Chong's next movie, Things Are Tough All Over, and The Man Who Loved Women. Those titles show range, not type. The goal was runway, not headlines. In the years that followed, he faced health challenges with the same straight line he brought to work. Liver disease advanced to liver cancer. He died on April 6, 2015, in New Bedford, Massachusetts, at 64. That is the end date. The legacy is not a statue. It is a record of exact choices in the middle of feuds and legal breaks he did not start. Now, here's where we connect Ben Powers' latest news to the specific records that shaped outcomes. Good Times reached its final season with a plan to restore a 2-parent home. Casting him as a pro athlete created a legal and financial baseline inside the story, a contract, a salary, and shared goals. The injury beat removed the salary and turned the plan into a debt test. That is not a metaphor. It is plotted as paperwork. It also cooled the noise on set by switching the arc from swagger to survival. When you read that beat, you can see the feud answered without another meeting. Reduced the arguments about image by changing the math. He played it all as written. Then Mike Hammer shifted everything from feud to file. When a star is arrested for smuggling, every production line behind that star stops. He did not serve as a public spokesman or a shadow litigator. He let the courts move. He let the company decide. He exited without fire. That is why Ben Powers' scandal update in this chapter is clean. The scandal belonged to someone else, but the impact belonged to him. Measure it that way. And you understand how one case changed one career even when the defendant had a different name on the docket. Through all of it, Alton Adelbert Powers kept the same method. He chose roles he could honor. He kept families on the page strong. He kept his own family out of the noise. He refused to turn someone else's arrest into his brand. And when his health turned, he chose privacy and dignity over spectacle. The main story breakdown ends with the same truth it started with. The feuds were structural, the legal shock was external, and the fallout was real for the man who held his line. What detail in that chain teaches you the most about control and consequence? And why? Here's my read on the fallout, step by step, with zero fluff. The Good Times injury was a narrative tool that settled a creative fight. It turned a victory arc into a resilience arc and positioned the husband as a working example of commitment under pressure. That choice ended a feud by moving the goal from flash to stability, and that is why the season landed without reopening the old debate about image. The legal hit on Mike Hammer answered a different question. Can a show keep rolling when its lead is serving time? The answer is no. Contracts, insurance, and production calendars all lock up. That is not my opinion. It is a procedure. The direct fallout for the ensemble is idle time and lost income. For him, it became a pivot out of the chase. Since he exited before the later revival, his trajectory changed for good. This is where the phrase Ben Powers' latest news fits with precision. The newest angle is not rumor. It is the clear link between a star's criminal case and another actor's lost runway. When you test that link against the record, it holds. The next part is industry math in the 1980s. Leading roles for black men were fewer, and supporting parts were often narrow. He countered that with reliability. Directors prefer the performer who shows up ready and leaves no mess. That brand protected him, even as big doors closed for reasons that had nothing to do with his craft. It also explains why you don't see a public flameout attached to his name. He didn't need one. He had work. When health challenges came, he kept control the same way. Handle the facts, keep the circle tight, and face the timeline with clarity. That steady posture ties back to day one at Trinity representative stage. Work teaches discipline. The camera rewards it. Through every chapter, he picked discipline over noise. Which decision in that line would you copy in your own work, and how would you handle a shutdown that you didn't cause? Let's lock in some sharp details that reveal the spine of this story. His birth name was Alton Adelbert Powers, a mouthful that sounds like a stage name, but it was the original name on his paperwork. He kept it near, even as screen credits used the shorter form. Before the sitcom spotlight, he earned his chops at Trinity Rep in Providence, a company known for actors who carry whole seasons on their backs. He did stand up, not as a side hustle, but as a lab for timing. He performed standards and his own songs, which built breath control that shows in every long speech he delivered on set. A Hollywood agent caught him on stage and moved him into rooms where club bookings and screen tests were set up with purpose. At the Playboy Club in Las Vegas, he learned the shape of a crowd that expects polish. That training shows in every close-up. On television, his guest roles across Gimme a Break, Laverne and Shirley, The Greatest American Hero, and The New Odd Couple mapped out a range that kept calling him back. The Good Times chapter put him inside a documented creative fight and gave him one of TV's most memorable wedding episodes, followed by that church step injury that reframed the season's finances overnight. The Mike Hammer chapter placed him in a CBS hit in motion and then proved how a single arrest can halt an entire machine. Stacy Keach was arrested in London in 1984 for cocaine smuggling, pleaded guilty, and served time. That line of law hits budgets, schedules, and careers down the chain. He left the chase by the end of 1985, before the series reappeared later. He married Julia Harper and raised 4 children. He kept that home life out of the studio's glare by design. Years later, liver disease advanced to liver cancer. He died in New Bedford, Massachusetts on April 6, 2015, at 64. These are not rumors. They are the anchors of the timeline. When you line the anchors up, you see the same truth repeat. The feuds he stepped into were about control of a story. The legal shock he absorbed came from another man's crimes. The fallout cost him momentum. And the response he chose was professionalism every single time. Which hidden detail from that list reframes the whole timeline for you? And what did you miss before you heard it in order? Here is the clean way to think about the whole arc and what to do with it now. The Feud chapter shows how a writer's room can settle a philosophical fight with a plot decision. The legal chapter shows how one conviction can end a show for everyone else. The Fallout chapter shows how a working professional carries the cost and still keeps his name clean for the next call. Alton Adelbert Powers stayed steady through all 3. That's why Ben Powers' scandal update in this story always turns back to other people's actions and his response. He never tried to ride chaos for attention. He built a record and protected it. That is the lesson. If you want Ben Powers' latest news tied to action, here it is. Use facts, track contracts, and measure the impact of court decisions on creative work. If you want a Ben Powers scandal update with exact fallout, here it is. The only scandal he owned was endurance. How will you apply that in your work when a plan breaks for reasons you didn't choose? Add your steps below and be specific. For a final pass, I want you to take this home and act on it. This story is a map of control, law, and work. If you want more Ben Powers' latest news that stays focused on feuds, legal facts, and direct fallout, say what event you want unpacked next and why it matters. If you need a Ben Powers scandal update that stays precise, list the single turning point that changed his path, the church step injury beat, the London arrest that froze a set, or the decision to exit the chase in 1985. Comment with your choice, and tell me what proof point you want cited next time. And because clarity matters, name one decision from Alton Adelbert Powers that you will copy this week, at work or at home. I read every concrete plan you send. Ben Powers' latest news continues here. Ben Powers' scandal update continues here. Alton Adelbert Powers remains the example of how to carry skill through noise and end with a record that speaks for itself.